5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good day, goodbye. How are you doing? Back here again. I'm back. I thought I'd wear something white, show the tan off, you know. It's got to be done, hasn't it? What is going on at our club? I mean, that literally, book yourselves in, get your sleeping bags out. We could be here a while. What have I come back to? I'm away for a week, and we have project resets. We have people being sacked. Unfortunately, not necessarily the right ones. It's all going on. Well, we're going to try and put some sort of explanations in there and find out and see if we can work out what exactly is going on at our club. Ray's in. Hi, Ray. How the devil are you, sir? Hope you are well. Getting close to another thrilling evening of Leicester City football. Don't know what you're drinking, but I'll have some, please. Ronald is in. Hi, Ronald. How the devil are you? And Prashant is in as well. Good evening, sir. Let me get my two guests in, the experts. The wise old owl. I could not say what I was going to say. You know, when my actual brain clicked in, then I thought, stop it. But that's gap there. Stop it doing. You shouldn't be saying that. I certainly should. But it is silly chat. Let me get my friends in. Let me bring them in. That helps, doesn't it? I thought I was really on top of things then. Gentlemen, ladies, good evening. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I am all right. Thank you very much. Look, we're going to be talking those two up at the top there. Let's come to you first of all, Kate. It's like a school reunion, this, isn't it? We've got all the gang back together.
Yeah, it's been a while.
What's going on, Kate?
Oh, I don't know, but I feel really blue about it. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels very disjointed at the minute, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch. I feel like the release of Top's programme notes a day early has had little impact, has it really? And that's kind of long been forgotten. And I think I've said this probably 2 or 3 times this season already, which isn't very encouraging, but that on Friday night was the worst performance of the season. And it left me a bit reeling from a feeling of unprofessionalism and a lack of heart. And that's not what we're used to seeing as Leicester fans. And yeah, I don't know what's going on. If you've got any answers out there, then stick them on a postcard.
I'm going to say answers on a postcard. You're about to show your age then, weren't you? Do you remember postcards, Craig?
Of course I do, Christopher.
You're such a cheeky git.
No, that was it. He may be too young to remember them. That's what I was referring to.
That's not work.
Or, of course, a sealed down envelope, whichever.
Of course, yeah, that did work as well. Yeah,
it did. God, Craig, as it look, we're Leicester fans. We've had it bad before. Have you known it sort of this toxic?
No, not toxic. I don't think we've. I think it's that watershed of winning the league, isn't it? Everything before that, was, or anything we did then was a bonus and wasn't expected. So we had a couple of years of winning the League Cup. People thought, great, we've won a cup. We've had I think we had 3, maybe 4 top 10 finishes in a row under Martin O'Neill. Nobody at that point believed we had a right to be there all the time. Cup finals were a fantastic bonus in a somewhat boring season. The top 10s were great. I actually remember walking to the ground with Scott when he was younger, whilst Martin O'Neill was here, and saying to him, enjoy this because it may not ever get any better than this. And that was when we were doing well, and as I say, 3 top 10s in a row, 4 top 10s or whatever. Then we go and win the bloody league out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden the bar has gone through the roof. So anything less than that is viewed on as a complete disaster, whereas in many ways its normal service has been resumed.
True. I mean, I refer to this. I have to be honest with you, Kay. I haven't read I've been out all day, so I haven't read your piece yet on the BBC.
Is it up? I couldn't see that it was up.
I presume it is. I presume.
I don't think they've done it.
But
anyway, carry on.
It's getting toxic between the fans, and that's the worrying thing. Is that all right, on social media can be pretty toxic anyway. Let's be honest with you, but it is now the number of people I'm kicking out of the Facebook group, not because they're just being horrible to each other or horrible to me. There's no sort of actually I don't agree with that. It's what you're talking about, you twat, and I'm being polite there with some of the things that they're saying. And I seen the last time I remember it being this toxic was when there was a time when they wanted Nigel Pearson out, and it wasn't going so well. And it's just the problem is, I think, Kate, once you get to that point, can you get that back? Because it's fans almost fighting with fans, isn't it?
Yeah, no one likes to see blue on blue, really, but there's so many broad views and opinions out there. There's the fans in us. I think it's a bit of a generation thing. I've spoke about this before, that it's a generational thing, whereas some of the older bunch, and I include myself in that, know that it's kind of normal service, like Craig has said, and know that this has happened in the past. We go up and down. These are by some distance the best owners we've ever had. But then you have the younger fans, if you like, and the more recent fans who realistically have only known the best decade in the club's 125-year history, or whatever it is, 135-year history. So that's what causes a lot of the toxicity, I think, is that some of the fans are impatient and want things done tomorrow. And there's a cancel culture about that side of things as well. Like, if you don't like it, sack it, cancel it, get something else in. And that's very much the thread that runs through a lot of Premier League clubs at the minute. But I think even if we do admit that we're a bit spoiled, or even if we wanted to be on that, steady curve of progressing into the upper tiers of the Premier League, I think anybody would accept that really what's going on at the minute isn't good enough. Because Friday wasn't necessarily just getting thumped 4-0 by a mediocre mid-table team. It was also, there was a real dropping of the heads. And that wasn't there in 14-15 with the Great Escape. And we had arguably some less quality players. We signed a Stoke reject called Robert Huth. We had Paul Konchesky. We had Riyad Mahrez, who was untested. We had Jamie Vardy, who was untested. We've come through a lot. So it's so hard to meet in the middle. And so many fans think their opinion is fact.
Yeah.
And so stubborn of it that it just creates quite a lot of animosity.
It does. Craig, do you fancy a bit of blue on blue?
You know what? As soon as she said that, I knew that your mind would be whirring, Chris.
Because he was written all over his face.
And I waited. I thought I'll just let that pass. I'll save it up. I'll save it up for Craig. I mean, what's it like? I mean, I don't go to the stadium. You two go to the stadium. But Craig, what's it like between the fans at the stadium? Is there a sort of a growing resentment? I mean, we all know, and we'll come on to all the banners and everything in a bit. But you know, is there sort of niggling between the fans?
I think there's almost like a three-way split. There's those, as you say, the older generation who have seen it all before, all the ups and downs, and are clearly not happy anyway, but they have seen it before and are a lot more pragmatic about it and accept that, you know, the roller coaster is part of being a Leicester City fan. You know, that the highs are so high because we've had the lows. You know, Man City fans are just feeling that now. You know, those who have joined their bandwagon since the oil money came in, they're just feeling it now. And you know, they've had this season a lot of them wanting Pep out because they've had a bad season by their standards. And then you've got what I've called the Union FS lot who feel like they have the voice of the fans, and never was that more shown to be untrue than their pathetic the march that they had. And then you've got those who sort of sit in between who are happy to get behind the team, but then when it does go wrong, are happy to sort of slip in and start booing where they would never boo before. So it feels like there's a three-way split, but I don't think, you know, the singing corner, as it were, or the booing corner, as it should be renamed now, you know, seem to act as if they are the voice of the fans. And as I say, they're clearly not the voice of the fans. And I hear as many people fed up of them than as fed up of what's going on the pitch and as the club. So there is clearly a real split amongst the fan base, and that's not really happened before.
No. I'll just put that up there for you, Kate. But I mean, this is the point. I mean, yes, it's a very good point, and the so-called march kind of fell flat, didn't it? But I mean, interestingly, I've got the Foxes Trust, the deputy chairman of the Foxes Trust, coming on Friday at 7. So we've got no match this weekend, to explain things in a sort of more sensible way, hopefully, because I think, you know, they're in touch with the board. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I mean, I suppose, Kate, one person's criticism is another person's moaning, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what football's all about, opinions. But like I said, it's when it gets hostile because someone has the audacity to differ from your opinion and there's a fight about it, and that's where I don't agree with it. Because let's face it, none of us have experienced Premier League management, have we, and playing Premier League football.
Well, I mean, Wayne did ask on X, actually, and I asked for any questions. He did say, do the panel feel they could do a better job? Which, fair point,
There's
Wayne.
no worse job that could be done at the minute. That's the thing. So we'll either better it or equal it.
This is the thing. This is very true. Rude has come out today, Kate, and said he's in for the long run. He didn't sign the 5-month contract. He's in for the long run. I suppose he can't do anything and say, do we believe him? But I suppose he can't really say anything else, can he?
No, he can't. I found that part of the interview actually quite encouraging to hear, because I think somebody said that he hadn't been in this position before, and he said that, you know, life's about, I think, trying to get up mountains or something. He said climbing mountains. So that was reassuring to hear, but I agree that he's not really going to say anything else. He's not going to say, well, I'm walking out. It doesn't sound like he's going to walk out like he did previously. And he's got us into a little bit of a mess. It's not all on him, obviously, but he has now had more games than Steve Cooper, and it is on his CV now. this issue that we're in and this predicament we find ourselves in. So I find Rude fairly straight talking. I find that some of his stuff is a bit contradictory. Like the Friday night interview was really disappointing. I don't know that you felt like that, Craig, but I felt the interview was really disappointing on Friday night. I felt like he was throwing the towel in. I don't know if that was just the raw emotion because it was immediately post-match, but that wasn't what I want to hear my manager saying, really, because that's not the attitude of a former professional athlete. Because thoughts about winning as much as it is losing, and we've got to turn this around if he wants to keep his job. If we want to keep Leicester in the Premier League, we've really got to try and do something different, and I'm not sure whether he's capable of that.
We don't. I mean, if we do go down, we probably look whatever we're feeling now, Craig. And there's arguments: was he the right man? Would Cooper have, been kept us in a better position? He was getting draws where we're not getting them now. Is he in a worse position because of injuries? You've got to also give managers, and we say this about other clubs, we've got to give managers time to build, haven't we?
We have. With regards to the interview on Friday, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because I think he was trying to inject some realism that teams are, all the teams above us have been in the Premier League for at least a couple of seasons and have managed to build. And we're now in a situation where PSR won't let you build. It's creating this closed shop, and our owners, I'm sure, would love to try and spend our way out of it, and they can't. And the Premier League clearly are now realizing that there's a problem when, for the second year running, all the teams, the three promoted teams, are going to get relegated again. So there's a clear problem there that they need to address. But on Friday was kind of the time that I lost patience with him. Now I don't want to see him go. I don't think that would be beneficial at all. I don't see the point of it. I don't see the point of another change of manager. The reason I started to lose some faith was as soon as I saw the team sheet, and you say these things week after week, game after game, and you don't change it. We've been here before. We've said the same things about previous managers not changing things, and to put the same team out and expect it to be different, I was flabbergasted, to see the team sheet, and then the slowness to change things, and some players not getting an opportunity, others having blind faith played in them. These are the contradictory things, as you were saying as well, Kate, that he says things and he doesn't back them up with his actions. And for me, Thursday's team sheet has to be a lot different from what he's been putting out. Otherwise, we literally could all do the job. If he can't find it in him to try something different with different players, different formations, then you might as well just throw in the towel, and he might as well put his boots on. We were one of the two teams that scored in every game of I think the first 12 games of the season, or something like that. Us and Man City at the time were the only ones who had scored, and now we can't score in the proverbial. And he does nothing to change it, and that's why I lost kind of patience with him, because I'm not seeing him putting into practice the stuff that he's saying, and that's disappointing to me, because he needs to change it. Otherwise, it is all on him. If he doesn't try anything different, if he doesn't give different players an opportunity, then it is all down on him. Whatever he says about the quality of the team, he will be taking it pure on his shoulders, and he has to deal with the consequences of it if he doesn't try anything different.
Good points again. Kate, do you think he's got that room for to change it? When you look, when you come to think, probably some of our best players are out injured, and I was thinking, you can't, everybody was saying, well, when Ndidi comes back, we'll be fine. we'll go on a winning streak, we'll win 10 in a row and be fine. It's not happening. It's not going to happen. You know, if Ricardo comes back in, is that going to make any difference? Do you think he's a bit like Cooper? Because when Cooper started, the signings he made were very much to put it politely, the more experienced end of the market. And, you know, because he didn't want the excuse that, well, you bought inexperience, you should have bought more. He didn't want that label. Has Van Nistelrooy fallen into that same trap?
Of what? Falling for the experience, you mean?
Yeah, so for the experience when we've had the excitement of, you know, players that he's promised, I'm going to play the youth, and we never see them. Alves, who looked pretty decent when he few times that he had, has gone off and he's now creating assists at Cardiff. I know it's a different league. Is it a time that we literally now do rip up the team sheet and say, right, you guys aren't doing it, I'm going to have to try something different?
Well, it has to, because it's the definition of insanity, trying the same thing over and over and thinking that it's going to end up differently each time. It's absolute madness. And I felt the same as Craig, like seeing Ayew and Bobby. I think one or the other you could potentially tolerate, but both at the same time on that team sheet again, when you just need a goal. Like, I wouldn't have wanted that on my CV as a manager to not have that record, to have that record of 6 home games without a goal. So, yeah, he's spoken about the youth. He's not been forthcoming with it and put his money where his mouth is. This Evans guy's, pulling up trees in the youth academy, which just try it. You don't want him to.
Apparently, he's injured. Who knew?
Okay.
Exactly.
So, yeah, there's a lot of risk. We're not taking enough risk. We don't take enough risks on the pitch because you need to take a risk to score a goal, and that's not happening. We just rather piss about with it round the back. Patting it round the back casually on 80 minutes when you're 3-0 down is so demoralising for the fans to see, and there's no urgency. But also, what's wrong with mixing it up? I'd even prefer to just mix up the formation, like with 3 at the back, and drop the wingers out because they're next to useless. Like, you've got to try a different system. Start with 2 up top. Do something. Just do something. Like, Forest have done all right with a different system. It's okay to not play Pep football. I know he's in everyone's heads, but it's okay to not play Pep football because it doesn't work for 99% of teams if you've not got the person.
Well, it's not working for Pep's team at the moment, is it?
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
So it's time to try. Well, it's more than time to try something new. The horse has bolted almost, really, but we've got to try something different, especially away at West Ham. It's not a nice ground to go to for a fan or for a player. And you may as well just try something. You've just got to try something.
Do you think, Craig, that now I think we're all getting resigned to the fact that we're going to get relegated and we're going back down again, and we're accepting of the fact that we're going to get nobbled by the EFL. We're not going to come straight back up. Who knows what they will throw at us, and it could be another minimum of 5, anything to 10 seasons before we probably see the Premier League again. Maybe not even in our lifetime, Craig. Do you think if Rude now...
On a cheery note...
If at the end, we clap your hands. Do you think now, if Rude was to turn around and say, "Sod this, right? I'm going to change this, and I'm going to drop this person," and he plays some youngsters maybe, and it doesn't work out, do you think the fans would go, "At least he's trying. At least he's trying something different"? Because we're virtually down anyway, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, you know very well I was advocating for 3 at the back and wing backs sort of 6 weeks ago to try and change things up and protect the back 4 a little bit more. I mean, the basic thing is we could draw every game now and it would not be enough. So by logic alone, you have to win some games, and to do that, you've got to score some goals. So he has to change it, whether it's formation, whether it's personnel, preferably both. He has to throw some in, and we don't. To be honest, it doesn't even have to be youngsters. There's almost like a Teflon that's been put around Jamie Vardy at the moment, and in a team which is where the confidence drains out of you as soon as you concede. We played pretty well for 20 minutes in that game against Brentford. We were arguably the better team. If we'd have taken the lead, that could have been a different game. The crowd would have got behind the team would have grown in confidence. Again, Jamie Vardy's missing chances. Jamie Vardy's been missing chances for 6 weeks now. Daka gets 20 minutes, doesn't play particularly well, and every fan would throw him out and say he should be transferred. Yet Jamie Vardy gets away with it all the time. Put Daka in as a start.
Careful, Craig. I said that once and I got absolutely pummeled.
Yeah, why? Or, you can't just constantly look at the defensive shambles, which was a shambles, absolute shambles. But you've got to look at what's going on in front of it as well. You've got two wingers who haven't got the energy. They can go forward, but they need a bus pass to get back, or they're so slow that they can't get up in support in a breakaway. Absolutely no use to the forward line or the defence. You've got two midfielders who someone who is a paid journalist of good standing said last week, it's great now that we've got two box-to-box midfielders. What? No, we don't have two box-to-box midfielders. We have two players who are okay in certain areas of the pitch. There is no way that you can carry on. Samari, he may have one or two nice touches. You need energy to get around a pitch. They've got no protection, that back four, but the back four are the ones who gets pilloried all the time. And then you've got a forward line that can't score, can't create, can't score, and miss chances. Yet the people on the bench are not getting a look in. It drives me up the wall.
No, I can see.
Yeah.
Kate, I mean, look, I don't think Dakova Reed or AU are starters in my eyes. We're saying like, well, Mavididi, he doesn't show it when he comes on. He's brought on, he doesn't show it. Are we back to the Kelechi Iheanacho situation where these players can't show it when they're only coming on for 10, 15 minutes? And you put Mavididi in, McAteer, whoever you want to on the side, give them a few games, not just give them 5 minutes here or 10 minutes there to show what they can do. Give them the whole game so that they're getting used to playing, that they know who's going to be where and what have you. Is this where we're going wrong?
Yeah, to an extent. I do think there's a lot of smoke blown up about Mavididi, and I don't think he's as good as everybody hopes that he is.
But could he be worse than Dakova Reed?
Maybe unpopular opinion, I don't mind Bobby. It's more of the inclusion of Ayew for 90 minutes that I bother about, only because Bobby showed against Arsenal, actually, he can get it, but he showed against Arsenal, he can get into those positions to score. That defender just stopped him from tapping that in. But Ayew's not getting in that position. Ayew can't sprint up the pitch like that. I don't mind Bobby so much. It's just Jordan is pedestrian and pensioner slow as much as you can be. And he looks 10 years older than Vardy, not 4 years younger. So, but yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. I think you do need a run of games. I really like Casey McAteer. I don't think he's quite Premier League standard, probably the same as Mavididi isn't, but you're never gonna reach that high if you don't play very often. And it's just something different. That's what frustrates me about Rude when he said it gives us almost a defensive cover with Bobby and Jordan. No, it doesn't. We're still shipping between 2 and 3 goals a game. Just get off that horse. It's dead, mate. You don't give us defensive cover. I'd rather play Buonanotte, Mavididi, Bilal, Casey McAteer, Jamie Vardy, Paxton Daka, and just let's have a go. Do you know what? If we bleed 3, we do anyway. So just try and get 4.
The best form of defence is attack, as they say. You know,
this team is capable of scoring because we did it under Cooper. We were one of only 2 teams in the league to score in the first 10 matches with Manchester City. It's capable of scoring, and we've completely killed the potency on any that we had.
Well, again, we're down to sort of, the players that are being picked. Craig, I mean, Kate mentioned there, 6 home games, 6 home losses on the trot, not a goal scored, not just a Premier League record, an all-time top flight record. So you can go back to 1860, whatever it was, when everything started. That is how embarrassing that is. And that is what this man has brought us to. Like you say, when we went down under Pearson, when we were struggling, we didn't go down under Pearson. When we were struggling under Pearson, you saw some fight. We weren't shifting to 3 goals a game. And look, I'm not going to say, was it wrong to appoint him? Was it wrong to get rid of Cooper? What's done is done. This is the position we're in now. But whether it's Susan Whelan, and we'll come on to John Rudkin in a minute, Top, have a word with them and say, you better book your ideas up, mate. I mean, you're a businessman. You work in a very good, largish company. Would you pay somebody, and I'm trying to I don't know what your wages are at your company, but let's say, would you pay somebody £60,000 a year and then let them just sit in the canteen all the day?
Well, no.
No,
of course not.
And yet,
but then we haven't got 3 or 4 people to do that same job.
No, and we didn't.
You can only pick one.
Yeah, and we didn't against Man United. So that when Daka got injured and we brought him off, we did not have a striker to come on, and yet we've got an £80,000 a week striker sat there, twiddling his thumbs, not even getting on. And to bring Buenete on as our main striker, it's ridiculous when we've got that person there. That was the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't understand it. I honestly don't understand it. I mean, he came on, didn't he? And I think it was a home game, and he had a bad touch with an opportunity that he could have had, and we've never seen a second of him again. There's just things that are not spoken about for some reason. And I will blame, the press, those who get to sit in that room and listen to a press conference every time. Ask some probing questions. Why have you not considered Edouard good enough to get on the bench? Just ask a straight question. Force them to give answers that they may not want to give. I know they'll probably, bluster the way through it and make some excuse. And I'm not here to talk about people who are not in the squad, blah, blah, blah. But press them on it. We have a right to know what's going on behind the scenes. And there's too much. There's too much smoke and mirrors going on at the minute that we don't know what's going on. But you're quite right. He's a striker. He's paid a lot of money. We paid a fee to get him here. What's wrong with him? What is wrong with him?
Well, I that is the question on everybody's lips, isn't it? I feel like, remember the Sun back in the 80s, where it says, the Sun man will be walking up the promenade this weekend in Blackpool. If you see him, go and hit him on the shoulder and go, "You're the Sun man. I demand my £5." I think we should start that with Edouard. Kate, I want to come on to a certain gentleman in a minute, but very quickly, we sacked 2 coaches yesterday. We haven't got 2 coming in, or anybody else coming in, but we've obviously promoted Andy King. I don't know. I mean, as much as we love Andy King, whether this is too soon or not, I don't know. None of us will know. And we've obviously already got a goalkeeping coach. Is that a bit like the boat's leaking, but we're chucking away the oars?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, if you want, he kind of said in the press conference today that he wanted his own team in, but I think he wanted to see what was going on at the club in terms of our own coaches. He said today it wasn't results dependent getting rid of them either. So I would like it to be the more the merrier, all hands to the pump, and just getting anything we can to get something out of the games that we're in. But similarly, if we've got more than one goalkeeping coach, we arguably don't need another. They may have always known they were on borrowed time. It's just as and when they were going to be let go. I don't really know what's gone on there. It doesn't look great. But yeah, the promotion of Andy King obviously means there's perhaps one spot that's been taken, but it doesn't put together why 2 have been let go. And it's just a really odd time of the season, isn't it, to be messing about with all that. I'm sure you can't have too many coaches on the first team. But maybe they offered nothing. They were Cooper's appointments. So maybe they just
They were. And in fairness, I suppose, Craig, we were trying to keep some continuity there. The continuity that, in fairness, Cooper didn't have when he came in, because Enzo scarfed with his band of merry men and left nobody. But he's saying, I read somewhere that Rude was saying he wants fresh ideas on the training ground, and he wants to get his message across. He's the fucking manager. If the coaches aren't doing what you want them to do, get out there and say to them, "Oi, I want them to be trained on this." Surely, again, it comes down to him.
It does, but you're not at a level where you're teaching people to control and pass a ball. You're talking about structure and tactics. Yeah,
maybe
I
we
know.
need that, because some of the matches I watch, passing the ball is one of the problems we have.
And unless these coaches are specialists in certain areas, which clearly they're not a defensive coach and clearly not goal scoring coaches, I would ask the question: how many coaches do you actually need to put together a game of 11 on 11? Too many voices sometimes can give different, can mix things up, because I'm sure Rude's not there the whole time, so he's leaving it in the hands of his coaches. If they're saying one thing, he thinks something else. You've got to have a united ship, and sometimes, in the worst times, you pull your closest lieutenants close to you, and you get rid of anybody who you think isn't pulling in the same direction. And that sounds like that's what's happening to me. Let's go to the end of the season with a tight-knit group and try and pull something together. But again, time will tell. But I've always wondered about how many bloody coaches do you need?
I think the most telling thing for me, Kate, and this is the last thing on Rude before we move on, is when Rude took over, there was potentially 6 or so teams in the relegation fight: Southampton, ourselves, Ipswich, Wolves, Palace, Everton, West Ham. Now there's 4, and if Wolves win another couple of games, it's good night Vienna. That's the damning thing for me, is that we're actually worse off than we were. We're not even treading water.
Yeah, absolutely, because we're just not picking up any points. We're not even drawing any games, are we? We haven't drawn a game in months and months.
No.
But yeah, it all comes down to the goal scoring again. And if you concede 0, which he tries to set up to do, you're still not getting 3 points if you score 0.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's worrying times for sure. And something needs to happen to stop the rot. And if everything you're trying and you keep repeating isn't working, you've got to do something different.
So, do you want some good news? We do need some good news, don't we? Fulham are 1-0 up away at Wolves.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah. So keep it going.
I thought Wolves would win that one. To be honest, they seem to be on a bit of a roll. They've just got some game changers there, and we don't have. And I don't think there's any chance of us staying up. And that that's why I don't think there's. Unless Rude picks exactly the same team again against West Ham, then there is no point in changing the manager. No. If he does, then you might as well just give it over to an AI computer and just say pick the team, because if he's going to repeat the same mistake, it's pointless him being there as well. I would like to see a different team.
You'd like to see 3 at the back, wouldn't you? And I think we all probably would just like to see something different, and that's the thing. But leaving Rude alone, Kate, I mean, we saw it. Well, that's the Arsenal game there. Internal review, you don't have a clue. Project reset, what the fuck is it all about? You're doing these things behind the scenes. It's not, as far as I'm concerned, going to make the slightest bit of bloody difference. How long do these reviews need to take? I mean, I can do a review for them now. We're shit. Make changes. Get it done. There you go. There's the internal review over.
Easy.
But, I mean, easy, isn't it? I mean, what? Just give me a top. Give me a call.
That's not the first time you've done that.
No, it's not. Exactly. You know me too well, sir. But look, John Rudkin is taking the brunt of it. Okay, let's say, and I think there are changes that are being made. Personally, I don't think it's all on Rudkin. If they sack Rudkin tomorrow, let's say Top suddenly grows a pair and says, like, John, thank you very much. You've been a good servant, stood by me. You've helped me through. You've me in the dark times. I need you to go. Do we really think that suddenly we're going to turn into primetime Barcelona?
No, not at all. I don't think you can lay all of this at one person's door, because it's impossible. And also it's impossible to do that, not because I think it's a melting pot of blame and mistakes that have been made, but also because we don't know exactly what each individual's role is at the club and what impact they actually have and what power they have. You can Google what a director of football is, but you don't know what a Leicester City director of football is. I've heard rumblings that people think he's part-time because he has a few other jobs on the side, including the King Power horses. But by my deduction, a director of football is part-time anyway. If he's only dealing with transfers and contracts, there's only 2 windows a year. So by the very nature, that's a part-time role. So there's loads going on. There's changes that have happened. We got, Dave Rennie left. People like that have gone and left what was an amazing decade. And they're the people that helped create the perfect situation for Leicester to win the league. And I don't honestly think there's enough said about the positives that Rudkin has done, because as much as there is so much noise about the bad, there generally has never been that noise about the good ever. Even in the good times, there was not that noise. So balance is needed. And when you're not balanced, you kind of can lose your audience a bit, because it becomes a vendetta. And when it becomes a vendetta, that's when a lot of the fans lose their interest in what the protest is trying to say. I'm all for freedom of choice to protest and explain your view. But as soon as it becomes a vendetta and you haven't got all the information about that guy and you want him to lose his job, you lose a lot of your audience. But similarly, they said there was going to be an internal review. I don't know if they ever said they were going to make the result of that public. I can't really remember if they said that or not. Probably not, knowing Leicester. But surely the review, because so many mistakes were made, we lost 89 million and then 92 million. Surely the review should have seen some kind of change in methodology, personnel, whatever it is. And I don't think we've seen that as fans, that things have changed and we've learned a bit. But at the same time, that £89 million year has dropped off this year, and this year we haven't got done. So you could argue that is progress. It's come at the cost of a terribly poor couple of transfer windows in January and the summer, terribly poor. And that might cost us our position in the league again. And the parachute payments just aren't enough to keep up these days. So there's a lot going into the mix, but I think a lot of people like to just have the one person with their head on a stick, and I don't believe that's reality. But I do want to see a lot more communication from the club. They have to communicate with us, to reassure us, to say that they are constantly looking and changing behind the scenes if it needs to happen. And we do deserve a lot of more communication from the club.
Craig, earlier in the season, I did a show and I was reminded of this last night. And I actually only put 9% of the blame on the troubles on John Rudkin. And maybe I was being a bit kind, and maybe he deserves more. And maybe I'm just getting taken along with the flow of it's Rudkin this, it's Rudkin that. Let's be honest with you. If the way fans' toilets were blocked, it would be Rudkin's fault at the moment. Do you know what I mean? It would. As I see his job as director of football, and again, you Google it, as Kate said, what does he do? And just because this guy does this job at, and looks like Craig's got notes. He does this job at one club doesn't mean that it's the same as ours. As I look at this, and everybody's saying, oh God, he's lost us 120 million on all these players that we've let go that haven't signed new contracts. That's not down to him. His job, I would believe, is Ruud van Nistelrooy says to his transfer team, these are the positions I want filling. And I quite like this player, quite like that player. They go off and they find somebody, and Ruud says, oh yeah, I really want him. And Top says, we can have him and you can spend up to here. The money that John Rudkin spends, he doesn't just pluck it out of thin air and go, oh, I think I'll offer him 100 grand a week. He may be going and saying, oh, I'll give you 50,000 if you come to Leicester. and the player says, "Oh no, don't I want more than 50,000," and he'll go back to Rudin and go, "Can't get him. He wants more than 50,000," and he'll go off to Top, and Top will come back and say, "Offer him more money." So it's not really, he's only working within the parameters that have been set, is he not?
Exactly. I've said this all along. Definitely there's been mistakes made. I would imagine that part of the internal review was for them to be more open, at least internally. We know that Brendan Rodgers, one of his main gripes was that he was told there would be money to spend, and then there wasn't money to spend. And Rude all the way through has said that he's been kept aware of the transfer funds, of all the money that's available, the contracts that have been offered, the fact that the goalposts have moved by agents and players when they come to actually try and get these deals. So that sounds, if Rude's being honest there, and there's no reason for him not to be, that sounds like a change in openness internally, and that would have been part of a review, that the manager needs to be kept more in the loop about what can and can't be done, to not build expectations. And the other thing is about, people say, right, you put these players on contracts and you bought rubbish or whatever. I can't believe that, when it comes to transfer windows, it's John Rudkin, sitting on Football Manager or whatever, going down and seeing who's got good stats and then just deciding to bring those players in. There'll be a committee, with a manager very much to the forefront of who he wants, just as you said. And then they have to go out with the budget that's available and get a player, pay the fee, pay agents' fees, pay the wages, whatever else it is, without disrupting the rest of the dressing room by paying exorbitant wages that would disrupt everything else. It's so simplistic that many of the fans' views, that it comes down to one person and, that player went somewhere else and he didn't want to come to us. Another Rudkin failure. It could be length of contract. It could be guaranteed playing time. It could be wages. It could be, a dress allowance for his wife. We don't know what's involved in all of these things, but all the fans think that it's just one person's fault. Rudkin has made errors, but he's the same guy who managed to negotiate and get 80 million for Harry Maguire. He's the guy who also wasn't going to roll over and let Riyad Mahrez just leave when Man City came calling. We played hardball there and got more money and didn't bow down to a player who just wanted to up sticks and leave. It's not all been mistakes, but there have been mistakes, and that has to be a collective failure of a manager, of the owner, of the sporting director, and everyone else who's involved in making those decisions, to make a scapegoat of a guy whose kids have probably got to go to school, and hear all of it. I think it's disgraceful, and I don't think anybody comes out of it with any credit.
I mean, Slow Tomatoes saying here, look at Tielemans, Madders did it, Mahrez, Chilwell, Maguire, Fofana, Kate. None of the, what could John have done differently with Tielemans running his contract down?
Yeah, that's the one that sticks in my throat a bit, to be honest. That's what felt like a bit of a catalyst of this thing to go wrong. And this model that we had of selling a superstar player every summer was just as vulnerable under Vishai as it is under Top. It's just that with Vishai, we managed to achieve it. But with Top, we'd won the FA Cup and Yuri just wouldn't move. Yuri wouldn't go. So what are you going to do? You cannot make a guy move anymore. Those days are gone. You read about it in some of these autobiographies from the 90s and early 2000s that you had just moved on, particularly if you weren't a player top of your game. But someone like Yuri, if he wants to sit it out and wait for the Bosman, you cannot stop him. Player power is unbelievable.
And Fofana as well, going on strike.
Mahrez at the bloody airport wouldn't come back to training, would he? And other things happen in the background, like that Adam Hlocek, was it, that we're supposed to sign in the summer? That fell through because Jorginho Rutter went to Brighton. That's not Rudkin's fault. No. Like, transfer window is a game of chess. You have to wait for all the pieces all the time to make it happen. There's so many people involved in one transfer that's a revolving door of players. It's really difficult to time it. And, we have wasted some money. Like, I'm sure I'm not alone in thinking, what the hell we were doing giving Vestergaard a new 3-year contract. But that was on Enzo. That was on Enzo. Enzo wanted that. but I'm never hearing that Enzo's to blame. It's always John Rudkin's to blame for giving Vestergaard the contract. But when a superstar manager who is now at Chelsea wants you to keep a player for 3 more years, of course you're going to do it.
Yeah.
But like, I understand as well that with the negotiation of wages and everything that takes place, it's still unacceptable to me to spend 116% of your turnover on wages. That is stupid and irresponsible financially. And that's what's made
what we did, though.
Can I just say before Craig jumps in there, Kate, don't get any ideas about asking me for a dress allowance.
Boo.
What about me?
You look pretty anyway, Craig. Don't worry.
Oh, thanks.
just wear longer ones, please, Craig. You haven't got the knees anymore. Sorry, Craig. Carry on, mate.
Yeah, what were we talking about?
About the turnover. I said about the turnover being.
Yeah, I mean, what we did though, you know, we chased the dream that all the fans wanted us to chase. You know, we gambled and it backfired because of, you know, missing out twice on the Champions League. You know, and again, I don't recall. Yeah, you know, it's not Rudkin's fault for that. You know, the players and the manager have to take full responsibility for that. You know, this club could have been very different. The last 5 years could have been very different if just one of those years we'd managed to get in there with the money that comes and the status that it brings.
Which is why it's the melting pot of blame, isn't it? It can't possibly be one person. Like Brendan Gucci Belt Rogers, he was 7 points clear with 10 games to go to get 4th spot, and he fluffed his lines. He completely fluffed his lines. And that did tenders on a different trajectory. It totally set. I wanted, with hindsight, Brendan should have been sacked the first year we didn't make 4th, because that's what he was brought in to do. Paid 10 million sniffs a year for that, and he missed it. But if you'd have sacked him after that first year, we'd have been called from a pig to a dog. But we're the first this to happen to, and probably one of the few that it will happen to, where you've had those highs. It's like Villa getting relegated next season. Yeah, and that's not out of the question, but their wage bill will be massive now. Same with Newcastle.
Yeah.
They get relegated.
It's going to happen, and you don't plan for relegation. You don't think, no, club will ever do that.
This one aside, and correct me if I'm wrong, the last 2 relegations we've had one bad season and we've fallen through the trapdoor. And other teams will have bad season after bad season. Everton, how many times do they just bloody get away with it? You know, we have one bad season and we seem to go. And that's happened on numerous occasions. Take this year out, this is just, we deserve to go this year. But other ones, we've been bloody unlucky that, you know, the other teams around us have just picked up and we've fallen.
Like Southampton, Everton, Burnley, they've circled the drain for years. And to be honest, I would snap your hand off for that relegation team right now when you look at it. Well, I'd love Iodi Perez back. I mean, he was next to useless at times for us, and he was always played out of position. But what I would give to have that guy back. Lookman.
He made an effort, didn't he?
Yeah, Lookman,
I just want to come back to Slow Tomato there. Says at least Mahrez got us money. I think you might find that Mahrez getting us money was down to Rudkin signing him on an extended contract after we won the Premier League. Didn't he? He agreed to stay, unlike Kante. And that's why we got the money. And if you're blaming Rodgers for letting other players go, Rudkin for letting other players go, you've got to give him the credit for maybe tying Mahrez down to that extended contract. Otherwise, we might have lost him as well. But
you can't do anything with these players, can you? You can't. You can't do anything. If players don't want to go, and he's a prized possession like Yuri, who just gets in the team, one of the first on the team sheet for us, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And like I say, there's so many people in this to blame, and what we all want is just a better club. But more importantly, how we can be impacted and how we can have our lives improved a bit as Leicester fans is just communicate with us. Just talk.
I think you know, going back, because you'll remember this, Kate. You may not, because you're much younger.
I'm 21, Craig.
Do you two get a room?
Surprise me. Paul Mace.
Yes.
Yeah. Probably one of the most high-profile people at the club whilst he was at the club. And correct me if I'm wrong, he was press officer. But you heard from him more than anyone else at the time.
Yeah.
And we should have somebody like that again, who's doing the PR and the fan relations and all this, who can come out and talk about stuff. Leave Rude to answer questions about the team and everything that, because what happens is they're the only face, so they get asked all the questions about what's going on in the transfer window, what's going on with PSR, blah blah blah. He should be doing that. There should be another face who fronts up and gives some answers as well, and I think that would help the club, you know, not just amongst the fans, but that openness. There's so much money in football, and I'll come on it again, the fans are the ones who are the least respected out of all of it.
Definitely.
I'll tell you what made me laugh. I feel like there's some youngster on the app as well and on social media, because on the app at half time on Friday night, the app flashed up on my phone and it said 3-0 down at home. We've got work to do. I was like, who's writing this? Are you having a laugh?
The ultimate
it winds me up a treat.
Yeah, the ultimate no shit Sherlock comment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we lived, as Slow says here, we lived the ultimate dream and shouldn't ever forget that. And look, Leeds tried to do it. They tried to take that extra step. We've got to be careful we don't turn into another Leeds. Yes, we're going down, but Leeds went down and down. So we've got to be careful that doesn't happen. And that's the thing. And at the end of the day, we still want a club to support, whether that's in tier 1, 2, 3, or 4, because obviously we know how close we've been before. But I want to just ask, I think we all agree, don't we? Quick yes or no that Rudkin is a scapegoat here. Kate, would you agree?
Yes, I agree. Yeah,
Craig?
Not blameless, but a scapegoat.
No,
definitely a scapegoat, and I don't like it. And I think maybe it could be freshened up. And someone threw a name out there earlier today that I saw. There was the fact that with Dan Ashworth, was available, and for me that wouldn't be a bad move to save. Rudkin would get a good payoff, even if just move him upstairs and give him another job. Do whatever you want with him. But to get some experience and some fresh blood would also appease the fans, and I don't think it would be a bad move all the way around, to be honest.
No. I actually tried to find out what this woman does, because we kind of mentioned we might talk about her like we have done for Rudkin, and I don't think that we're going to spend that long on her. But is this woman totally blameless? I mean, I found an article from the Leicestershire Live. More Than Football, Susan Whelans opens up on City role in rare interview. Now, this is the chief executive officer, and she's been there since King Power bought the club from Milan Mandrich in 2010. And she's overseen promotion from the Championship, Great Escape, The Miracle, FA Cup wins, etc. But actually trying to tie down to what she does, and she's Irish, so this was an interview with the Irish Times. It's all about football in the community. It's all about that side of the club, where to me, if you're a CEO, Kate, it should be about running the club, not worrying about that. That should be somebody else's job. This should be the person, because Top isn't here all the time, and after Top and any of the board there, this is the woman, sorry, just knocked my cup over, thought it was full of coffee, but thankfully I'd emptied it. But this is the woman who I've just give myself a heart attack. That's more exciting than any Leicester City game I've watched this season. But this is the woman who basically should be running this club while Top is not here. But this is the woman that has seen us PSR struggles, overseen this relegation, overseen these wages, etc., being given. Surely, I mean, all I ever see is pictures of her winning an OBE, getting an award for this, Woman of the Year, and maybe she's just there because she's getting a dress allowance. Who knows? But surely she has to take some blame. But she seems to be getting out of this. Like, oh, Scarlett Pimpernel, wasn't me.
Well, yeah, I suppose the CEO is to oversee all aspects of the business, operations, finance, you name it. She should be overseeing the role of the business. So, yeah, there will be mistakes on her part. Maybe she feels her hands are tied. It's hard to be a chief exec, I guess, if your financial situation's running amok, because you're not the finance director and wouldn't potentially have say on that side of things either. But I don't really know. I don't know what a chief exec would do for a football club. I don't know the ins and outs of her role at all. Again, that's something that's been so tight-lipped about. But what I will say is that she's not got there lightly. She's one of the best business minds that I think Ireland's ever produced, and she's not got there because of what she looks like. She's got there on merit. So I don't know how it's set up, whether it's a traditional CEO role or whether Top and Vishai ran it as kind of almost a dictatorship, or they ran it in a Thai style. I don't know how they've ran the business, but yeah, for sure, she certainly escapes a lot of criticism to an extent because she's not to do with the football inside. But we have struggled financially, and she certainly must have an oar in there.
She was top businesswoman in Ireland, Craig. Maybe if we, did a deal with Walkers and actually looked after the potatoes rather than the bags of crisps, she might know what she's doing. Oh, very, very typical joke there for Ireland.
I mean, but she was brought in by Vishai, and she was my understanding is she was working for him before that. And don't forget, she probably did this interview and was talking about things other than finances at the football club, because particularly if you're going through court processes, you can't speak a lot about it. But when Vishai came in, community was one of the most important things for Vishai. So it makes sense that she was part of implementing those programs as well, and therefore would have a lot to talk about that. Also, we've talked about how we've got into this mess. So there has been some financial mismanagement, clearly, and a lot of it comes down to us chasing that dream and getting players on high contracts and not being able to move them on. All of that happens. But at the end of it, these are also the same people who have employed some very clever lawyers to make sure that we've not had the points deductions that other clubs have got. We may well get it when we go back down, but they did everything they could to make sure that we didn't get it. Football clubs are now massive businesses. The bit that goes on the pitch is a tiny part. So these people are running the day-to-day things. And we've said so many times, all the power of football club these days is with the players. So doing that on a day-to-day business must be absolutely a horrific job, to be honest, to be pandering around to these sort of multi-millionaire bench warmers. It can't be an easy job, that's for sure. But clearly there's been some errors made. They also won us the league and the FA Cup. It's not all been bad, but when things go bad, it gets highlighted a lot more. And somehow, hopefully, they can find a way out of it.
Yeah, no. Well, fingers crossed. I mean, I'm not saying she's bad at a job. I think the problem is, as with anything with this club, we don't know what that job is, Kate. We don't know what's going on. You go onto the LCFC website and you find this, and it took me a while to get to where all the directors and all their things were. No description, just Susan Whelan, CEO. John Rudkin, Director of Football. Doesn't give you anything. I mean, she could be a glorified tea lady.
Yeah, she could be. Also, John Rudkin could be a glorified tea boy, just to add that in there.
No, indeed.
But yeah, I don't know what they do. I genuinely don't know what they do.
No.
But Man United have brought in a new CEO recently as well, haven't they? And I don't know what he does. I know they make 300 people redundant. That much I do know. I know the staff canteen's pretty much been closed to save costs at Manchester United. So, there's a lot. The problem is in that people forget, because you only focus on your own club because you're passionate about it. You look into it. You look for the detail. You're really interested in it. But people forget that The other 19 clubs are having exactly the same problem as us. It's so difficult to run a football club without PSR, let alone now with PSR thrown in, plus COVID, which I think a lot of these problems are as a result of for a lot of clubs is because of COVID. It's no coincidence that we're seeing more and more regularity around points deduction whispers post COVID than we ever were before. And PSR has been in since 2012. So COVID was a big trigger. COVID was a big problem for the King Power brand, for God's sake. They're having financial issues because they pretty much had to close for 2 years. So it's not all rosy in any camps. If Everton get relegated, which again isn't beyond the realms of possibility next season, they've got this massive stadium that they can't afford. You know, it's difficult to run a Premier League football club. When it's your own, of course you feel it. Of course you're passionate about it. Of course it stings a bit. But I don't think none of us know what any of these bigwigs do in any of the clubs, to be honest.
Yeah. Slow Tomato says, guy in the top left-hand corner, it's not because she's a woman or Irish, get over it. Mate, stop being so woke. Go and play with yourself in a corner over a copy of Playboy or whatever. It's called humour. And like most lefty wokies these days, you don't know what that is. So grow up, go and get yourself a new dummy and put it in your mouth and leave us all alone.
One thing I'd like to say, Chris, is I think it probably while you were away, Kate, Susan Whelan has not got away lightly from the abuse. There was one particular game where her name,
yeah, I was there.
Yeah, her name was in the chants as well as Rudkin. So she's not got away totally free.
Yeah,
and quite right, because like I say, we were saying, you know, why is Rudkin the scapegoat when you've got other people? Look, we know the ties, Craig, are very, you know, they keep things close to the chest. They've never have been sort of, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And maybe we don't want to be a Man United where everything we do is publicised. And, you know, the fact that they are cutting back staff, you know, and I've been like that when I worked at Blackburn Rovers when they got relegated. You know, getting rid of 5 staff, they'd save a lot more money by signing one less player on 100 grand a week. You know what I mean? And it just has to be shared. It's not just one person. Do we need, and we've touched on this a few times, and somebody said this in the chat, surely, you know, we were saying with Paul Mace, we just need somebody that keeps the fans informed, don't we?
I think so. I think so. And, you know, to almost be a trendsetter for the rest of the Premier League, because there doesn't appear to be anybody who does that role anymore. You know, it's all about the managers and trying to be a bit more transparent and being a leader, you know, to educate fans about the business of football. All fans see at the moment is what goes on the pitch and what goes on in transfer windows. That's what we're aware of. Yet these are multi-billion-pound industries that we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And that is football in general. You know, you can look at it and say, you know, the people with the most control in football are referees, but who don't have to come out and explain themselves. It's all ridiculous. So to take the lead and put someone in there and act as an educator for the rest of football, I think would go a hell of a long way, not just to appeasing Leicester City fans, but I think football fans in general would appreciate the fact that there was someone there who was trying to educate them about how football clubs are actually run these days.
Yeah. Kate, should we be preparing for the Championship now? Should that be our main priority? And we don't, I mean, Wolves have equalised against Fulham. Who knows which way that's going to go? You know, should we be, that's got to be at the back of our minds, doesn't it?
Yeah, it has, but I don't know how you can prepare for the Championship. How can you prepare?
The honest answer is I don't know.
Yeah.
I was hoping you might.
Just got to wait and see what happens. If we carry on as we are, I think relegation will be confirmed before the end of the season, way before. And yeah, there's no way to prepare for it. I mean, we wouldn't have been able to prepare for it last time around because it came absolutely out of nowhere. You just got to, you know, Susan did say, you know, in 20, was it just after we got promoted in May? She did say the ripples of the relegation will be felt for quite some time. That was even when we got promoted in May, because like I said, it takes 3 years to wash out this PSR nonsense, and that's what's massively hampering this football club. It's not a case of, there has been irresponsible spending for sure, but similarly we've got multi-billionaire owners and they can't spend their cash. So yeah, we'll just have to see what happens, but that's something to talk about in May if and when we're there. You know, who knows? Manchester City might get a big points deduction, or somebody might fall off a cliff in terms of performances, like Wolves or someone. You just don't know, because we couldn't have predicted the Great Escape when it happened. It felt different for sure, but we couldn't have predicted it. We were 7 points adrift, and we did it.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen these days. I think we're all clinging on to that who knows. Very quickly, just to round it up, and it's been a great show. Those upcoming fixtures there, Craig, come to you first. You've got the fixtures, whether they're home or away, and you've got the previous results when we played them earlier in the season. There's a lot of red there. We knew at the start of the season, didn't we, when we looked at the fixtures and we thought, we've got a reasonably good start to the season. As it happens, it wasn't. We always knew when we got to March, April, that they were going to be the difficult games. And after West Ham, from Chelsea through to Liverpool, we couldn't ask for harder, really, could we?
No. I mean, how many points are we on at the moment?
17.
17. I think, you know, if you lived in cloud cuckoo land, and let's say that we only get beat,
fans do, including myself.
This is true. That a lot of that we get beaten by Liverpool, we get a point at Man City, and we win the other games. I mean, looking at that realistically, there's probably even the best will in the world, 17 points, which would put us on 34. Not sure that's going to be enough. So, yeah, I think start preparing for VAR free football.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't miss that. I love that, to be honest with you. Looking at that, can you see us getting any points? I mean, I said last night on the review show, I have a feeling for a point on Thursday, and after that, I'm struggling, because I think even Wolves were, we were hoping, but look at the way they dismantled us last time.
I just have a feeling we'll win at Chelsea. And that's it. Because that'll be the most Leicester thing.
It would be, wouldn't it?
There's a tough run there. But the issue is, if you look at the previous 8 games that we've just had, I think a lot of us would have gone into those 8 games thinking, yeah, Fulham, yeah, Palace, yeah, Everton, yeah, Wolves, yeah, conceded West Ham, yeah, no problem. Get some points there, collect a bit, because we've got this tough run coming up in March that we're probably not going to get a lot from. And yeah, we've come away with practically 0 from that easier run, if you like. So who knows?
Chelsea, Man United, Man City, 9 points in the bag.
Basically, yeah.
I'm going to ask you this one thing. Let's say and we'll end on this bit, but let's say that the miracle happens. We'll come to you first, Craig. Miracle happens. It goes 3 at the back. What 3 do you play? And if you say about phase, I'm going to hunt you down and literally put a curse on you.
Okay. Well, I mean, how many centre halves have we got?
Not enough.
Yeah. How many have we got, Chris?
No, but I mean, let's be honest with you. He's played James Justin out of position all season. He could bring Danny Ward on and play him as centre back, couldn't he? I'm joking, obviously, with the Vout phase thing, but I would sooner stick with the 4 and drop phase. To be honest, I think phase should never ever go anywhere near a blue Leicester shirt again.
I mean, I did think you were very harsh on him for calling him out for that 4th goal. I don't think he covered himself in any glory, but there was enough.
Well, VK was a shocker for that goal.
Yes, and Samari was involved as well, but the last person who could have done anything was FaZe, and he went for it, and it must have bounced off somebody else first. Then he just stood there, and he did not attempt the goal.
He was the furthest away from the ball, and it deflected twice on its way in. But anyway, let's not. let's not go to scapegoating because we've done that in the past, haven't we, Chris? And we don't agree with it.
I'm happy to scapegoat when it comes to that.
I know you are. I know you are. No, I didn't like what I saw from him.
The man who got a 0 score off his own national newspapers when he was playing for his national team.
I didn't like what I saw from him at all. Don't get me wrong, but I don't see a world where you can play Cody and Vestergaard together either. And Akoli, who we all screamed out for and we all like, had an absolute shocker against Brentford. So it's Ndidi at centre half. Maybe that's the way we need to go back. Someone who can actually head a ball and tackle. I honestly don't know, but I think it's as much about protecting that back four or the back three as it is as exposing them. Because let's not pretend that they've not been exposed, because they have been badly exposed. So I can't give you a straight answer, Chris. I'm afraid. I wish I
can't
could.
even remember what the bloody question was now.
Who would it be? The three.
Okay.
He wanted an excuse to slag off Face again. Yeah, us three.
We've got three at the bottom over it.
There you go. Good point.
There's 3 traffic cones in the roadworks down with me. I'll get those.
Oh, look, an absolute Rolls Royce 10.5 right there, by the way. Check my bad self.
You do. You're the talker. You can just organise your 2 boys.
I'm Yap Stan, mate. Bring it on.
Let me do right now. All joking aside, I think we would all like to go 3 at the back, but it's a very good point that Craig's made. Is the fact that we defend the goalkeeper by saying the defence in front of him are shit. And they are, but then should we be saying, well, the defence haven't got that protection in front of them? And saying that, would you stick with Samori and Ndidi, or dare I mention the WNS words, Winks and Skip?
The problem I have is that I was massively surprised how much we missed Ndidi, right? Because he's not my favourite player, because he's just nothing. And I still believe he's not a patch on the Wilfred Ndidi from 5 years ago, and he's only 27 or something. So we've lost that Wilfred. I don't know where he's gone, but he did reinforce us when he's come back to a degree. We're still shipping 2 or 3 goals a game, by the way. But if you want goals, which we desperately need, because that's what wins games, Wilf and Samare together, it's not happening. Like watching them against Arsenal and watching them against Brentford, when we break, and there was a few chances to break, particularly in that first 20 minutes on Friday, they are jogging casually because they're so scared of passing the halfway line. And we don't attack in numbers. We defend in numbers, and we're not very good at it, but we don't attack in numbers because they're not interested in pursuing forward play, because they're not forward-thinking players. So if we want to score, we've got to try W or S. With Wilf.
Well,
I think just on that, for me, I don't know if we would ever go back to this, but we saw Wilf at his best when he was a lone defensive midfielder. That was when he was at his best, because that was his job. He couldn't say, well, I'll leave that runner to someone else. It was his job and he had to do it. And he was at his best when that was it. He wasn't asked to go forward. He was asked to be a defensive midfielder and sit there and screen it. And then as soon as we went to having 2 of those, he lost his way, because somehow now he's only half. Yeah, so it doesn't work for me. I'd like to see if you can do that with a back 3 and then he sits in front, then your width comes from fullbacks and you can have more creative players up higher up the pitch, which means we might actually hang on to some possession in the opposition half.
Well, we live in hope.
Yeah.
Definitely the last question to both of you. Kate first. You're Ruud van Nistelrooy. What would you do for this game against West Ham that's different?
Exactly what Craig's described. I'm going 3 at the back. I'm playing wing backs because I'm dropping the wingers because they're basically not helping me out. Then you've got to start playing people to their strengths. I like Bilal off the left. I like Buena not coming off the right. And then I would play Wilf to hold, like I say, maybe the solo holder, and maybe put Winks or Skip in there. It's not going to be watertight or foolproof. But yeah, he's got to surely accept that a change of formation is needed with the players that he's got, because they're the players for the rest of the season, and the formation that he's demonstrating just isn't. It's not creating anything.
Great.
Yeah, I would say 3 there. One in front of them, wing backs. Then that allows you 3 creative midfielders who can all be given almost a bit of freedom. Buonanotte and El Bilal given a bit of freedom, maybe a Winks to just sit in there, and then a lone striker, or even go with 2 up front. God forbid.
You were doing very well then until you went totally silly and said 2 up front. You know what I mean? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much. A great talk. We need to get ourselves in those positions of power at the club, don't we?
I think we do. I think, look, that, as you said, Kate, that power trio there, we're the ones to take it forward.
Mate, absolutely 0 goals conceded with that back 3 right there.
Yeah.
Can I
Chris,
just
you
say,
take glasses off though.
I think the 2 on the right, as I look at it, but certainly not the one with his arms crossed. He's bloody useless. Just don't take him. He's John Rudkin's bastard child. He is. I wouldn't have.
I thought he was I heard he was the new Wout Farce.
He's not even that good.
He's not even
He's the guy who sets himself low standards and fails to come up to them. And just to leave you with Wolverhampton Wanderers 1, Fulham 1. Kate, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at KateBlakey40. I also do BBC Fans Voice stuff. Hopefully, should have been out today, but I don't think it's. I think there's been a lot of rude stuff on the BBC today. And then I'm sometimes a guest on Blue Tinted Glasses as well. If you want to check me out on there, I did Leicester Fan TV at the weekend as well. So I'm here, there, and everywhere really. But I'll be back here next Tuesday.
You do spread yourself about a little bit. Craig, where can people find you?
At Craig Bird on Twitter X, and on whatever the other one is these days, is it Blue Sky, whatever. Blue Sky, at Craig Bird 1. Does anyone use that?
I've not opened an account yet. I've got the app.
Yeah, I've opened an account. I don't think I've been on it since.
I think you can actually get a package or something which is free, where it immediately gives you so many followers, and then after that it just kind of
well, that's pointless. Yeah,
Oh well. Yeah, I can't understand why you're not up there yet, then, Kate. But I'm sure you will go up at some point. You boy.
I hope so.
Guys, thank you very, very much, and well, fingers crossed for Thursday.
Indeed.
Thanks so much. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye. Bye. See you, Craig.
See ya.
Thanks to Kate there, and thanks to the wise old owl. And we will be back on Thursday with the watch along. Yeah, I know. Why do I keep doing this to myself? I just was just being to S&M, wasn't I? But we'll be back. I'm not sure what time the kickoff is on Thursday. Let me just have a look. 8 o'clock. So we'll be back from 7:30 Thursday with the watch along. Please subscribe, smash the likes on the video, share the video as well. And thanks, we've got a new member, 199, Robert. I really do appreciate that, mate. Thank you so very, very much for becoming a member. Details are below. Becoming a member gives you a chance to come on the channel. If you want to do that, all you got to do is send us a request, and we'll see what we can do for you. Be back on Thursday, and if you've been listening via your favourite podcast platform, thank you very much for lending us your ears. You can have them back now. Take care, guys. See you Thursday.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.